Hey friends! I'm Jesse Fisco.
And I'm Ambry Fisco.
As founders of several successful businesses, we've experienced absolute joy and satisfaction working together to build our empire.
Our journey started off as a small business idea and has launched into a multi-million-dollar portfolio. It would have never been possible had Jesse and I not understood the key principles of making it all work together. But it has not been easy.
We found ourselves in the trenches, trying to balance real life with business life while maintaining our strong commitment to creating an amazing marriage.
And we've emerged in a beautiful way together. This podcast was created to help you do what we've done, build an amazing marriage together while maintaining balance between life and business.
So here we are.
So
You're listening to the Matrimonial Merger, a couple's guide to balancing life and business.
Let's get started.
This topic this week.
Welcome to the Matrimonial Merger. Jesse and Amber here, and today we're going to talk about those days when you just feel like you're falling down, it's difficult, and how do you get right back up? And we're going to talk about some of the things that we've experienced and also some of the things that we do to pull ourselves back up on those days that are really hard. So before we get started, just want to say welcome again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good.
You're doing good?
Yeah, today's been a doozy.
If you don't know
Today
me,
has been
maybe I feel like we always say that, but
get FOMO in
today
like if
there's just been lots of extra feedback from I feel like all angles.
So Jesse was
and
like, "Hey,
a lot of feedback from our children."
Yes.
And then immediately my mind was like,
one of those days that just
you hate needles. Like, why
can
would
make you stronger if you allow it to.
Yeah. There's no coincidence we're talking about this topic today.
Yeah.
Okay,
seriously.
now I'm curious.
Because we've had to come back and really regroup.
Something that I actually feel like I want to
realign,
do. I want to try.
Interesting,
my mind is like saying
interesting feedback from everything from like small congestion that's just kind of like gone over for the last couple of weeks, coupled with family drama, coupled with snow today,
push through this,
and massive traffic. It's been
zone or whatever. It's
been one of those days.
And so I'm like, we're gonna go.
Weird appointments, weird like interactions with.
And I'm like, okay, like my mind is still trying to tell me
in some
like
cases, just like some
needles,
interesting stuff.
I literally like used to be terrified of needles.
I'll say initially before we really dive in is that
at the table,
I think that there is power and a message in everything, and that's one thing that we've learned and really adopted as a belief in our life is like, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this? When I was younger, I remember being in like an insecure or something, and they had to draw blood. There's a purpose behind it,
like popped
even
out,
if it might seem like
blood started
crazy,
spewing everywhere, and I was like,
even if your 2-year-old son just cries the entire day.
I honestly don't know 100% why, but I've just always
it's been a very good learning
in this situation.
And
I was
also
like, okay,
testing patience.
I actually want
it.
The
never ceases to amaze me the amount of growth we had. Like a year, 2 years ago, it would have been like screaming and yelling and upset. And now we're kind of like, we're still like
so I'm like
yelling, but it's more of like in a sarcastic, funny, so our kids like laugh with us because it's just ridiculous.
So we sit down,
as opposed to like actually hurting feelings and installing beliefs in these children.
It's always a process and progress. And I hope like in another 2 years, we're looking back going like, oh, we've gotten even better.
Yes.
I think that's one of the beauties of like family and having children.
Was I a little nervous?
They teach us as much as we teach them, and we are required, if we choose, to become a better version of ourselves because of
for you,
because of what they need from
his story.
So, anyways, but
I got the short end of the
today was one of those days though. Like, it's like how are you going to now like how are you going to respond for one, right? Because that makes a huge difference in the outcome.
It's like
and then
knew it didn't
how
really
like you're in charge of
like I could feel a pinch, but it wasn't.
And so we talked about a minute ago, like we were talking about
still my body
before we
feel like
started recording. We were talking like storms come in life, right? Like there's things that come, things that happen that feel like we don't like this storm, whether it's emotionally,
almost
physically,
like my body was
mentally.
trying
there's
to
things
trick me
that
into thinking that I was actually
happen
in
and they come, and it can be frustrating. It can feel
and I even
defeating,
remember like after she put it,
and
like,
it
how does
can
it feel? Is it good?
Sometimes allow you to just kind of like
she's like,
get
what
into
do you
a
mean?
funk or
Like,
a slump
does it feel okay or not? Like she's like,
just
you really
a very unproductive.
I'm like,
phase.
I don't think I feel it.
So how do you?
And she's just kind of like,
obviously like process doesn't really those emotions that need to be processed. Like, don't just sugarcoat everything and, it's all fine, whatever, move on. Like, I think there's process the emotions that need to be processed, but then how do you actually turn it into something that is serving you great and something that is actually benefiting you in your circumstance, rather than just like catheter out getting through it with the needle. And so as we were talking about storms, we're like, well, what if like they pull it out, this storm comes into your life, and in my mind I'm associating storms with either like waves or like ripping the tape off. Strong where we live, there's a lot of strong wind.
Yes.
So I'm thinking of like wind. So then I'm trying to consider that like hurts. Like, what if in the storm in my life I can choose like the freaking needle, is this wind pulling that pushing against me or pushing with me? Like that, and I think that like that's something that we get to determine a lot of times. Interestingly enough, is this wind that I'm experiencing? Like, am I going to choose to like go if you had to like right just now push against it and feel that resistance and that to put a needle in frustration and give you all kinds? Or am I going to shift and allow that wind to like actually push and propel me forward? And is it going to actually serve my purpose and help? Like, just do the tape. Give me that's not scary motivation, because for some reason in my mind it's purpose. Like
right.
And so
needle scary.
How are you adjusting your sails, right? Because like on a ship you can adjust your sails to a certain degree. I don't know if it's because like if someone rips a piece of tape off, I feel like I kind of know what that's going to. So how are you adjusting your sails in the storm?
Exactly.
Or are you just keeping your sails fixed I feel like in one direction, like you said? And that's interesting.
Anyways,
I like that,
long story short,
you're right. You do have the opportunity
the emotion
to
and the
adapt
feeling
and change within the
attached
storm
to
and
the
allow the wind
experience
to propel
literally
you
is what
to the
creates
next
the experience and creates the
next
reality,
level or
right?
phase in your life.
And I think sometimes we see this a lot, in other people's lives, right? Because sometimes when you're not the one experiencing that storm, it's easy to like look at another person's circumstance and kind of be like, oh, just look at it this way. Like, this is actually like, this actually could be really cool for you, or this actually could help your business. Like, this actually could, you see it from like a different angle. So, I mean, that's another thing to consider. Like, if you have people in your circle that you consider to be trusted and successful and resourceful, like maybe when you're going through something, like be vulnerable, go talk to them and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, from your perspective, like what would you do? How do you see this as like a positive? How could this serve me and be part of my story rather than like part of my demise, right? Like, so
I was gonna say too, like for me, I was just telling you about this. Is like I've consistently written down certain things on my journal that have been kind of pushed back or neglected due to certain storms that happened throughout the day. And as I've recognized that, it's like, okay, now if I went to go do everything and try to make it up for the last week, I'm going to be very, very overwhelmed with all the things I have to do, and that's not going to be healthy or beneficial either. So instead of looking at it as, okay, I can work harder, maybe I need to look at it and say, what can I take off my plate, so that I can do the highest and best activity. So that when these micro storms or even bigger storms, the macro ones, when they come,
I got injected in my left vein.
The
catheter was
to do,
and
also know that
gosh,
I have more time and more availability to put out the storm, coupled with still doing.
And then he let her go to the other side. That's this interesting thing. Is like he's like, sure, go try the other side.
Oh, a thought came to my mind as you were talking, and now
this already being
gone.
Kind of
I hope it comes back.
It'll come back.
But
you
don't know what you're doing.
And the thing I would just like hit home realistically is you're in control, and you've always been in control. And what you're receiving at that time, here's an example today that happened. 4 o'clock in the morning, I woke up to a nightmare. And I had a chance to, and it involved one of the appointments I had. For those that are on Facebook, you probably saw I posted asking for someone to accompany me to a house, just because things weren't adding up.
Let's go and talk about the brain.
And at the end of the day, you want to trust your gut.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I wanted to trust my gut because I believe that your dreams can tell you things, and I want to, be in tune with that. And so, anyways, I had that opportunity. There was a small storm this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I laid there in bed. I tossed and turned. I also have a massive headache because I'm feeling congested a little bit. And laying in bed, tossing and turning, trying to determine what I'm going to do with this appointment that is literally at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know.
And I just remember looking at it going, I am in control of this, and I can have the outcome I want. Obviously, I'm not going to cancel and just give up because of a gut feeling. However, what have I not considered? And so, 6 o'clock in the morning, I post something on Facebook asking for some help, and before I know it, I have someone that's willing to go.
And I remember feeling like
and it was interesting because we show up to the house, and some of the things that were in the dream were actually in the house too, and there's no coincidence there. But I was in an environment where I felt more comfortable having someone accompany me, and it was going back down to, all right, am I going to propel myself forward? I was able to sit down afterwards and have a pretty good conversation with this gentleman and find some things and ways that I could help him. Even introduced him to the podcast and said, hey, this actually the episode that was released today, like this week's episode, which will now be last week's episode, you need to listen to this. And sent it to him, and he just sent me a message back and was like, that's exactly what I need to hear. So, maybe there was something else there, but how are you adjusting and shifting your sails in the winds
to make it happen in your benefit, to make the things like, because I really believe that if we put intention behind that can be true, like with everything in our life. I mean,
it's interesting how your body works that way.
Someone I love is going through a lot right now, and I just look at like their circumstance, and I'm like, man, like to me it's so inspiring. Although I know for them it's got to be like discouraging in some aspects. Like I see like this story being created, right? Another example is like a young girl I met at the gym on like a week ago, and she was there like trying to just like do a little bit more than her physical therapy, because she had broken her back like back in December, and she before that is like a super successful competitive soccer player, like super active.
I think our brains like
and broke her back in like an ATV accident. Anyways, long story short, she's there. She's like on crutches, like having to learn to walk again. Like imagine being like a competitive soccer player at 14 years old. Like you feel like you're in your prime. Like, and she's experiencing this huge setback. And as I kind of watched the interactions, I was like almost some embarrassment, like, oh, this is like dramatic, and just I was like, just had this feeling like, go talk to her like after. And so I finished my
in the middle of the
like
night.
Walk on the treadmill, and I walked up and I was just like, they had like exchanged a few words with me already because I was just standing in front of them, but I walked up and I'm just like, I hope you feel strong, like you look so strong. And like from my perspective, like I'm seeing like this incredible story being built, and I know, and I'm sure for her that there's been a lot of like frustration, and I also hope that she's felt a lot of like love for herself and gratitude for her body, because she has a second chance at like using her body, and being able to do the things that she once did. And she's doing fantastic. Like she's going to the gym and trying to use this exercise bike, which I just so admired. But I look at it and go like, what's happening here? And like this feedback she's receiving, to me, I'm like, think about the impact her story is going to have that it maybe wouldn't have otherwise, because of what she's going through.
And so
like
I pull up the map.
The story that is being created is going to impact so many lives if she allows it to, and as she allows it to, right? And so I think that
what the heck,
once again, like everything can be for our benefit and for our betterment, for the betterment of those around us, for our family. And sometimes we just have to like be willing to see it from a different angle and to allow the wind to push us in in the right direction.
My hands up, I give up. Like this morning's already
and honestly, like
crazy,
the biggest thing, like days like today,
against me, like
where it's just,
I'm just gonna have to go back.
It was hard. Like I'm not going to lie. Today was hard, and I even found myself at one moment. One of my emotional triggers a while ago was when I'd feel anxious or stressed out, I would want a soda. Like it was just the cracking open of the soda that made me feel so relieved and so comfortable. And at one point, I just was like, I'm off caffeine.
Regardless,
like
what
there's
you
no
choose,
soda.
You get to
like
choose
maybe
the
a mineral
outcome.
Water, like in our
You get to
house,
choose
like
what
the
is the
sparkling
reality,
mineral water.
regardless
But I was like, I'm
of the
anxious. I'm
situation.
feeling this emotion,
And so
and I'm
from
trying to
there,
overcome
like,
that,
okay,
right, and feel
had to break the
comfortable,
pattern
even
of
though there's
that,
a lot coming at me.
that emotion.
And I just looked at you and I said, I just
So
need a
from
Chick-fil-A
there, I was like,
lemonade,
all
right? Like I need to
can
just like
go
switch
to
it
the
up.
gym. I have
And
the
it was
choice. Like, it's not
interesting
like
to
I can't
see
go.
that, but even
I can't.
in a lot
I just
of
have to choose, do I want to
stress
sit in the
and
traffic
a lot of
for 50
anxiety or
minutes
whatever
or not?
the emotion was,
And of course, I'm like, do I want
I was
to
still
sit in the car
able
with my
to
kids for
recognize
almost an hour
and
to
focus
get to
on
the
where
gym?
I
Like,
want to
not
go. I was still
necessarily.
able to adjust
But
my
do I
cell
want
and
to
say,
go to the
okay, I'm
gym?
not going to
Yes.
go fall back on the soda, even though that would have been amazing. Like a Coke Zero with lime right now sounds fantastic, right?
My mind opens up
but
and I'm like,
also
got like an emotional anchor.
Traffic.
Yeah, I have an emotional anchor to that. But
automatically show you
to also go,
to
you know what, like that's not going to help me.
In my mind,
and
I'm
that's
like,
not going to
I'm
keep me
pretty
involved
sure there's
in
a
the
way
things I want to do and the changes I'm trying to make. In fact, that might also put me
all the
back
way
into
around this wreck.
a old habit
And
loop.
so I looked at the map
getting
really quick,
soda and how
and I'm like,
how unhealthy
oh my
is
gosh,
that for me at this time in my
work.
life?
And all of a
I'm not
sudden,
saying
like,
soda's
going
bad,
from defeat
but what I'm saying
to
essentially is like,
curiosity of like,
for me at this point in my life, I'm trying to get rid of caffeine to access higher energy levels internally.
Neighborhood roads
and so it was just interesting to see, like, even during this moment when it's really hard and there's that weakness, you're given that opportunity to still rise above, and it's your choice.
Exactly how it should. And as I was driving, I was sitting there going like,
fall back
holy
into
cow.
the old habit. You can still
had the
continue to
choice
work
to
on
choose
your
gratitude
becoming
and resourcefulness and curiosity.
And a lot of times it's just getting past that peak,
it
right?
was like powerful.
And it seems like so hard in that moment. And then you get past that peak and you're like,
the pattern
of
frustration.
So like I did it.
Nothing's going my way today.
I've been like reintroducing ice baths into my life this week, and so I think that where it's like,
my gosh,
the reality of my morning and my day.
How many times? 3 times, and I jumped in once.
As good of a day
in the last week.
The last like 5-6 days,
Ice baths are amazing.
That's what I'm saying.
They're the best. They're so awesome.
Exactly.
There's so many.
I'm creating like a cult of ice bathers in our backyard in like a hot tub that's been turned off and repurposed.
I don't know.
Anyways,
freezing, 32 degrees.
It's so cold.
My whole day.
But you jump in this ice bath and it's like your body goes into this immediate like fight or flight. Like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Get out, right? And you like have to like slow your breathing down, calm your body, and convince your body like I'm safe. It's okay.
I would have felt today just by recreating.
And then a magical thing happens. Like for me, it's around like 1 to 2 minutes. It's happening faster and faster. I'm noticing the more I do it. But like at some point, you're like, okay, I'm fine, and you're calm. You can open your eyes, you can talk, like, and it's like, I'm okay. I made it past that. But like the first second you jump in the ice bath, you're like, oh my gosh, your body's like freaking out, and using the right like breathing and like calming your body, like you get to a point pretty quickly where it's like, I'm okay, and then you can sit there for 5 minutes and you're fine.
Right.
And
laughing because it's so
I kind of relate that, and this is probably why I love it so much, is because if I do that in a day, I'm like, I did something that legitimately was hard. I challenged my mind and body to like a point that is incredible for me. And so if I can do that, I can do whatever else it is that is thrown at me today, right? So I love that, but it's like sometimes you just got to get past that peak, and it might come quickly, right? Like it could come so fast, but it's just in that moment you don't see it. It feels impossible, right? Like how could I sit in this 32 degree water for 1 second longer? And then you do, and then that like intense anxious feeling passes, and then you're like,
one of my favorite things is
I'm okay. Like this is okay. And I made it through. And then you see the benefit. Then I jump out of that ice bath and I'm like, before, as I'm standing outside the ice bath, I'm like psyching myself out. I'm like, maybe I just won't do this today. Like, it doesn't get easier to jump in that ice bath. Like, spoiler alert. Like, at least for me, it's like I still look at it and I'm like, that's a bucket of cold water.
And you're only seeing all the things that you don't want, all the things.
But then I get out and I'm like, I did something hard. I feel so powerful. Like, I feel good. My energy is insane. Like, my adrenaline's up. Like, I have all these endorphins and I am just like feeling incredible. And then I start to see all the benefits. So it's like you have to push through that peak and get to the other side. And then like things will just feel amazing and clear, and you'll see the benefits of what it is that you have been experiencing, or the feedback that you, or the storm, whatever you want to call it, that you're in, and then also you'll see the beauty and the benefit in it. You just got to get past that peak.
Traffic. So then how can I
have something that's gonna blow your mind as I was listening to you speak.
There was the option of like, to go later.
So as you were speaking, I started wondering,
for an hour and then go
storms
in an hour,
are actually
right?
for your benefit.
That's an option. Like all these, my mind starts to open
like like from an actual
from an actual
still get what I want.
What's the word?
Like
and have it be like a
actual,
what's the fancy word for weather?
And then by doing that, all of a sudden my mind is
not
creating
biology.
a new pattern of resourcefulness and creativity,
that's
and going,
You know what? Actually,
it's
I literally like
meteorology.
Never
meteorology.
Is it meteorology?
Yes, because I had a C- in that class. I barely skate by. I didn't study a dang thing about it. But here's something to consider.
Breaking the pattern, shifting back towards like
water
focusing on what you
is
want.
produced back on the earth. Like thunderstorms bring water. If it's a snowstorm, it brings more snow. It brings water.
On the what.
Here's something interesting. If it's a thunderstorm, the purpose of lightning helps transfer the negative charges back to the earth.
You mentioned
so without thunderstorms and lightning, the Earth's atmosphere, electrical balance would disappear in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Wow.
And it also,
even if I learned that ever, like in school, I do not remember, and it did not impact me the way it just did, because that is cool.
Also makes ozone producing chemicals. So even with lightning, there is a purpose. Like even with the hardest days, there's a purpose for you that you just have to uncover.
For those that are familiar with
holy crap,
amazing
adventures
first stop.
That's cool.
You want to talk about like another reel? That's probably what it's going to be right there.
Yeah, that was cool, because I mean, if you know like what we've learned about energy, right, and like the energy in our bodies, the energy in the outside world, like how all of those things connect, that is really cool to consider. Like the Earth is literally like
it needs
fixing, right? It's fixing the like misalignment.
It's coming better, and that's where your feedback is.
That was the first pattern.
The feedback is helping you fix your personal misalignment.
I
don't know
if you allow it to, right?
Even, like without us actually talking about this, I don't know if we would have ever come up with this epiphany right here.
No, that was really cool.
Holy crap! But you're welcome.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really like that, and I think that. It goes back to like if you allow it to, right?
Yes.
Because you think of like the Earth, like does the Earth resist that lightning? No, it's like it happens. It allows like okay, because I like love birth. I'll just use a birth analogy because that's like hits to my core. But like I think of like the process of birth is such a beautiful natural thing that can happen like really effortlessly if you allow it to, right? And like those contractions like are intense and powerful. But like as you allow things to happen, it just becomes easier and more like effortless. Right? Same thing with challenges in our life, with like the lightning in the earth, like just allow the process. Don't fight it. Right? And if you allow it, it's actually going to like solve problems for you. It's going to give you, something that is missing that you need to like push forward.
Just thought of that, and
I'm so glad we're talking about this, because like
feeling frustrated.
It's amazing just talking about this, how it's changed my perspective on today a little bit.
Have a
because
pity party, right?
I don't know. We had someone come into the Emerge coaching platform, and
maybe
it was just
like, someone's gonna feel bad for me.
There was some miscommunication.
Jesse will give me some sympathy.
Like, and this person ended up asking for a refund.
Jesse will come solve
at which point I just said, I would love to just hear,
but just my initial thought,
like
which
if you're willing to just give me some time to like listen to your experience,
like maybe
because this person only been in
tired, I just needed like
one
validation
day
for my
and then was asking for
and so by like
a refund,
being in a bad
and
mood,
so
somehow
I was able
like
to get on the phone with her for 45 minutes and just listen.
Felt like that would be
and at first. I was just like, at first I was a little flustered, and I'm like, man, I put my heart and soul into this.
Honestly,
like someone's asking for a
it.
refund. This is
45 minutes is like a decent amount of time for your day.
Right. But then afterwards,
am I not able to break the pattern? Because
probably
in the moment
pages of notes
that's where
that I
the
sent
magic
over
happens.
to
So why
the
in the
team that's
moment am I
helping
not
us
able
with
to break
this
the
program.
pattern?
And I just said, here are all the things that I just thought of. And I noticed small little things that add up. Example, like if you clicked on the link on our website, it didn't take you to YouTube, it took you to a page error. And so I was like, oh, well, we got to fix that. And then also, like, even in the text message, there was like some grammatical errors, and it's like, okay, we got to fix this. And before I knew it, I started recreating something that was better from the feedback or the storm. I allowed myself to listen to it without getting emotionally charged, and because of that, I produced 2 pages of notes to help better the business. Now imagine if you could do that. Like, let's flip over to relationship. Imagine if you could just take the feedback from your spouse and produce 2 pages of notes on how to become better.
Not really.
That's really cool, because I think that like in this particular case, I remember when this happened and this person reached out and they were kind of like, oh, this isn't what I thought it was going to be, like whatever. Well, this is something you put your heart and soul in for 6 months, right? And created, and it will help. If they apply the principles and actually do the challenge day by day, it will change. It totally can change their life. And so when you get a message like that, it's so easy to kind of be like,
I should have.
No wonder you have
I'm
a secondary
sorry,
gain.
you must not know what you're doing.
No,
or,
I mean, the picture more I saw in my mind,
we don't
not
offer
even
refunds,
that,
which is true. That's a policy, right?
Real,
we
but just
very clear with the message, and refunds are not
sympathize and feel bad
just
for me and
handed out like that, right? Unless without effort, right? If you went through the entire program and you're just okay, let's talk.
Interestingly enough, happened anyway.
It's so easy to get that kind of feedback and just be upset, be frustrated, and be resistant, right? And also assuming, right, that you kind of know exactly what that person's experience was or what it should have been. And
I think that's
but in this case, especially in the early phases of this particular product release, you're going all right, well, there's something I can learn here. And so you're taking this person's opinion and experience, and gratefully she was willing to, share that and to be, helpful in that way, taking it and actually allowing that to uncover other potential, uncover other issues that you may have, experienced in the future, but now you can fix them right now. So you could have easily allowed that to be a really negative situation, maybe leading to negative reviews or whatever, right? But instead you chose to flip it into a very positive situation that is actually serving your purpose and your intentions.
And one of the things she said is that the words holistic coaching really resonated with her, and she can tell that it is a holistic program by the way we handled it.
Have the ability
and
to
it was
cause
because
commotion in your life.
We're looking at it, we're not combative, we're not saying no refunds, forget you. We're essentially looking at it and saying, how do we improve based off the feedback we're receiving? And to her, that really resonated.
I think that by getting
and that's where
that's cool.
Once again, we talk about there's a purpose, there's intentions behind everything we're trying to do, and even down to the atmosphere around us, the lightning has a purpose. And so
what else could I do? Or is there
yes, we just have to allow the storm. But I love what you said about adjusting your sails and going with the wind instead of against it. Because ultimately where we see a lot of people fail in relationships and business and just in personal life is they've received this feedback and they're resistant to learning through it and being curious.
And if you want,
and more importantly, they're resistant to that most of the time they don't even know what they want, and that's where that's a huge issue for people is they don't know what they want, so that naturally they're resistant or feeling like a victim because of the situation that's happening. But as they align so much with what they want, then they start to look at the resistance or the storms as something to help them and benefit them. And that's where we talked about last week's episode having a $100,000 mindset and $1 billion work effort. That's when you start to change and create a $1 billion mindset and to become more aware. Have a work ethic that is amazing that will help you get to that next level. But it's not until you look at these micro details and the feedback that you're receiving. It's not until you look at that and say, okay, this is a storm, I need to adjust my sails and quit being resistant and allow it. You'll still get to the destination. It may not be the way you thought. But that's what makes the journey so much fun is you'll still get there. But what are you learning along the way that will help you in the future?
And I think in that process, as we wrap this up, is
if you guys
so
have any questions
we're hitting home a lot, don't resist it, right? Lean into that feedback, lean into the storm and allow it to propel you, right? And part of that process, I think something that's very important is to trust yourself and know that the answers and understanding are within you. That'd be cool. They're there. You just need to allow them to come and allow them to, to be. And I think sometimes as we resist and as we push against this, friction or whatever, right? Those things become suppressed and they become we become unaware of them because we're resisting them, right? But the answers and the awareness and the understanding is there if we allow it. If we allow it to.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say that based off the criteria and the things we've shared in this episode, hopefully this helps. But if you're still feeling like, man, I just feel like giving up,